Welcome back. We hope we've delivered on what we promised at the beginning of the program, and that you are motivated by the grace of God to be all He created you to be. Now, if you haven't joined the TPI family, I want to extend a personal invitation to you. Please go to the website and hit the subscribe button and be kept up to date with all things TPI. Well, we've come to the end of the show, but I have one final thought that I want to share with you. It's a quote from the famous British writer and scholar C.S. Lewis, who said, "You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream." Wise words, and I couldn't agree more. We leave you today with hip-hop Afro soul song from artist Rebler featuring Oscar called Need More Grace. Amen to that. From all of us here at TPI, goodbye and God bless you.
My comforter, I'm under you. Creator, you rule your governor. And if the enemy attacks your conqueror, you really got my back, I'm in love with you. Yahweh, King of Kings, you are rougher. You splash your blood all over, I got cover. The word of God fires off, papa, papa. Protecting me like mama, papa. The Last Supper, the room's upper. Yes, you rescued me from the gutter. In Jesus' name, demon shudder. You really freed my pain when you rose again. You healed the blind, saved the lame. Gospel pioneer, I'm in my own lane. You set me free and broke the chains. Touched my heart, gave me a new name.
Saved by grace, what I'm here for. Down the dumps way before. I was up and down like a seesaw, but I need more grace when I need more. I need more, I need more. I need more grace when I need more. I need more, I need more. I need more grace when I need more.
I seek His face in a secret place. Unmerited favor, that's the grace. I was a bad boy like Diddy and Mace. Let's cut to the chase.
Up bright and early this beautiful Tuesday morning. Welcome to the Morning Brief. I'm Kayode Okikulu, and guess what? We're in the nation's commercial capital, Lagos. Good morning, guys. Did you?
He had to remind himself so that it doesn't mess things up.
Exactly.
Welcome back to the nation's
commercial capital from the nation's
and our
capital.
global headquarters, by the way.
Absolutely.
Especially because you're just coming back from the nation's capital.
So it's important to state the dichotomy.
So Abuja is our national headquarters as channels. This Lagos is our global headquarters. So we're global like that. Welcome to the show. I'm Jeff Ruzama.
Well, this morning I'd like to start by saying that men acquire a particular quality by doing something continuously in a particular way. And those who promise everything are sure to fulfill nothing. And those who promise too much are sure to go means not so straight to fulfilling those things that they promise. Something for us all to reflect on as we continue in our reflections or assessment, if you like, of the current administration in the last 1 year. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief. It's your perfect day starter on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka.
And you know, it just hit me as you were talking about doing something consistently, that we as a people generally need to consistently choose the right choices. Tautology, but choose the right choices, just so that would hit home. Because you realize that every challenge or every situation you're faced with has at least two options you can make. You can either do what is right, which most times is quite tough, or you can do what is easy, and a lot of times it's the wrong or very, in fact, terrible decision. And this is what I mean. You fly on an airplane, for example, and something as simple as please wait for the row before you. Yes, you know those things that we do, and it's quite clear. You have to wait for the people before you to stand up, get their luggage, their carry-ons, and then move out of the airplane before you begin to get up to take your own hand luggage to get out. But no, the moment the plane is still taxiing, just to a halt, people are already standing from all the way back, and they're already opening the compartments, pulling out their stuff, and then they now line up all the way. And the people at the very front have not even stood up yet. And I keep wondering, why do we do that? I can almost predict. And these are the same people that will say, we need to fix this country. The government is terrible. Yes, I mean, absolutely. We'll give the government the flack it deserves every single day. But I think we should do better, guys. It's simple instruction. Wait for the people in front of you to get up before you get up. Is it hard, really? Is it hard?
Well, I doubt that it's hard. We're just set in our ways and we refuse to change. And it's not peculiar to conduct of Nigerians in airplanes. Everywhere that we find ourselves in, it's difficult for us to stay in the line in a queue and just wait for your turn. Remember during the NIN registration, the queues were so intimidating, almost as long as Third Mainland Bridge. I like that description, by the way, such that people began to circumvent the process and began to bribe just so that they could get their registration done without stress and would leave the venue. And those who are unable to pay will stay with the intimidating queues. You can also talk about filling stations. People begin to shunt the queues and start to funneling or going through the other way and bribe petrol attendants just to get the commodity, petrol. We could talk about so many other instances, and that speaks to, how we started off on the program. We acquire a particular quality by doing something consistently in a particular way. So who are we as a people? People without integrity, were unable to commit to, the right way of doing things, something for us to reflect on and do better by ourselves. As Kayode says, we do not spare the government when they do not fulfill their own end of the bargain. So, but who are we as a people? Jeffrey?
At the end of the day, just as I was listening to everybody, I'm just thinking, the same people will queue up at BRT lines. Have you ever seen people jump the queue at BRT? It's really difficult. Yeah, when I use the BRT, the times I use it, I always observe that people hardly just jump the BRT line, whether it's at TBS or somewhere. It's really difficult. So what is it? It's a mixed bag. What do we have for the people today?
Well, quite a package, guys. On the show this morning, we're starting off with this very important task of finding out if President Tinubu's first year has been a triumph or a tribulation for the rule of law. We put his performance under the microscope, from the reforms promised to the discipline review of frameworks and laws, plus more. So essentially the verdict is coming in, guys, this morning.
It's been coming in full and fast in the last few days. Apart from that, we tackle the burning issue of local government autonomy. Are Nigerians' grassroots leaders truly empowered to serve the people, or are they held back? By who and why? Plus, do you even know who your local government administrative team looks like? Let's hear from you and, of course, our guest this morning.
It's amazing. We use the word local government and then I use administrative team. That is a peculiar Nigerian situation. Plus, get ready to be mesmerized by the art of transformation from discarded fragments to dazzling works of art. Mosaic mastery breathes new life into the forgotten. Join us today as we delve into the captivating world of mosaic art with a brilliant artist and see where creativity meets sustainability.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah, I think it's something we need to keep in our minds. Plus, as always, we're tracking your reactions across social media. Are you one of those who would not wait for the people in front of them to disembark? You know what, be bold, okay? We're trying to help ourselves this morning because those people are people, okay? They're not AI, they're not spirits, they're actually people out there. So let us know on how we can fix some of these challenges. And of course, send us your thoughts on the big talking points and the top stories. So you can do it on X, #CTV Morning Brief, we're checking by the way, and on Twitter, or rather on WhatsApp. Elon Musk will not be happy with me right now. And that's the WhatsApp number right there. So you can send in messages and videos only, not calls, right? So if you've got peculiar videos that you'd like us to see, send them our way this morning.
Fantastic. So, Kaide, it's up to you now.
Well, let's get started with the top stories, though, from the major talking points today and the coming days, and you don't want to miss this. So stay with us right here. It's a Morning Brief, Tuesday edition. Let's do this, shall we?
I like that one.
Well, top on the brief this morning, we begin with the rallying by Vice President Kashim Shettima for a global partnership to tackle the problem of internal displacement in Nigeria. Well, he made the call during the launch of a state action plans on durable solutions to internal displacement to be implemented in 4 northern states of Adamawa, Benue, Borno, and Yobe, which held at the presidential villa in the nation's capital, Abuja. By the way, a report released in February 2023 by International Organization for Migration had put the number of internally displaced persons in Nigeria at over 2.8 million. So it's quite a big deal, and that's why attention should be paid to that one. Well, let's head over to the courts now, where a high court in Kano State, northwest Nigeria, has ordered the 15th Emir of Kano, Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero, to stop parading himself as the Emir of Kano, and also directed the police to evict him from the mini palace at the State Road. The court, presided over by Justice Amina Adamu Aliyu, gave the order yesterday, and this legal tussle followed a federal high court ruling last Thursday, which restrained the reinstatement of Muhammad Sanusi II as Emir of Kano and suspended the law establishing the dissolved 5 emirates in the state. The court order also affects other traditional rulers in the dissolved emirates, restraining Nasir Ado Bayero, Ibrahim Abubakar II, Kabiru Muhammad Inuwa, and Aliyu Ibrahim Gaya from parading themselves as emirs of Bichi, Gaya, Rano, and Karaye. Meanwhile, the Deputy Governor of Kano State, Aminu Gwarzo, has retracted his earlier comment, accusing the National Security Advisor of facilitating the return of the deposed Emir of Kano, Aminu Ado Bayero, to the state over the weekend. The Office of the National Security Advisor had denied the claims, maintaining that the Office of the NSA did not provide the aircraft that returned the deposed monarch to the state, as alleged by the Deputy Governor. Mr. Gwarzo said his allegation was based on inaccurate information.
Knowing his pedigree, knowing his antecedents, knowing his integrity and devotion to duty, I believe if he has any hand in it, he will be very straightforward and say yes. Now that he has refuted it, and as I've said, we have further information that confirms that position. There is nothing we can say but to apologize to his person and the office on behalf of the government of Kano State for any embarrassment or inconvenience that might have caused him.
From Kano State now to the nation's capital. Following the commencement of a public hearing on the National Anthem Bill 2024, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, has indicated that any reversal should come by legislative fiat, but should be subjected to a wider consultation. At the hearing, the AGF, who indicates that the reversal is not out of place, it also adds that it will require a referendum and the input of state houses of assembly, which is a wider process and will be a true reflection of the generality of the wishes of all Nigerians. At the lower house, a few days after the federal government sued the 36th state government at the Supreme Court seeking full autonomy for local governments, the discussion continues at the Federal House of Representatives, with the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice again calling for the scrapping of state electoral commissions. The occasion was a national dialogue organized by the House, where President Bola Tinubu says his administration is committed to strengthening the local government system. According to the president, the degradation of that level of governance has contributed significantly to the inability of the country to address security and developmental threats. Well, staying with the courts, but tribunal outcomes, the Kogi State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sitting in the nation's capital has affirmed Usman Ododo as a duly elected governor of a state. Well, the three-member panel, led by Justice Adoberin Nkudu, dismissed the petition that was brought before it by the candidate of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, Murtala Ajaka. In the same vein, different geographical location related story, the Bayelsa State Governorship Election Tribunal also affirmed the re-election of Governor Doye Diri as governor. The three-member panel, led by Justice Adekunle Adeleye, dismissed the petition by the All Progressives Congress APC and its candidate Tim Persilva, lacking in merit. Party politics now. The tussle for the leadership of the Labour Party took a different turn as groups clashed at the National Secretariat of the party. Well, trouble started. Members of the Edo State chapter of the party gathered at the HQ to demand that the National Working Committee of the party ratify the decision of a state chapter suspending Mr. Julius Abure as the national chairman. However, another group in support of Mr. Abure countered the protesters. And security-related matters now. Justice Inyangeko of the Federal High Court has fixed May the 29th for the trial of detained leader of Miyetti Allah Kota Ore, Mr. Bello Bodejo. The court fixed the date after dismissing the application for bail of the accused person. At the last adjourned date, the case was fixed for ruling and commencement of trial of Bodejo, but his absence in court stalled the trial from going ahead. Shortly after the court fixed the date for trial, his counsel Ahmed Raji said his client is ready. He says since the court has ordered expeditious hearing in the matter, there will be no need to appeal the ruling on his bail for now. And top business, the value of a naira against a dollar saw a significant appreciation of 10.71% on Monday, closing the day at 1,339 naira to the dollar on the Nigerian autonomous foreign exchange market window. Well, this appreciation marks the highest closing rate since April the 26th, when the exchange rate was 1,339 based on data from FFDQ. Well, this is also the biggest currency appreciation rate in 2 months since May the 20th, when it recorded a rate of 12.84%. On Friday, May the 24th, the exchange rate was 1,482 naira to the dollar, with a minor increase of 0.19%. In the foreign scene, an Israeli airstrike is reported to have triggered a fire that killed 45 people in a tent camp in the Gazan city of Rafah, prompting an outcry from global leaders who urged the implementation of a world court order to halt Israel's assault. Palestinian families rushed to hospitals to prepare their dead for burial after a strike late on Sunday night set tents and rickety metal shelters ablaze. Israel's military, which is trying to eliminate Hamas in Gaza, said it was investigated reports that a strike it carried out against commanders of the Islamist militant group in Rafah had caused a fire. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the strike had not been intended to cause civilian casualties. And to sports news, Nigeria's representatives at the ongoing 2024 Basketball Africa League Ball Rivers Hoopers BC achieved the historic feat of reaching their first semi-final ever at the tournament after earning a tough 92-88-point victory over former champions U.S. Monastir of Tunisia in the quarterfinal. The result means Rivers Hoopers are the first Nigerian side to reach the last four at Africa's biggest club basketball championship. Rivers Hoopers went into the quarterfinal encounter on the back of consecutive defeats against U.S. Monastir in the final game of the Sahara Conference and the AS Douanes of Senegal during the classification round at the playoffs in Kigali, Rwanda. But they put all that behind them now. Up next for the Kingsmen is a date with Libya's Al Ahly for a place in the championship game. The game will take place on Wednesday at the BK Arena in Kigali, Rwanda. Well, those are the top stories on the brief at this hour. Well, it's time to now take a look at what you've been saying about the stories and more. And of course, Jeffrey joins me to walk through your comments. Jeffrey, what do we have top on the list this morning?
Congratulations to the governors that had their elections validated,
Right.
but I'm sure that all of that will head to the Court of Appeal and then end up in the Supreme Court. We understand the long haul, but of course, there have been talking points around all of this, which is why it's a very good day for us as far as the show is concerned, because we're going to be looking at what the Judiciary has done in the last 1 year. They've been praising some and received a lot of flack in the others. So we're going to look at all of those elements, but let's find out what the people are saying. Again, the courts, barring Ado Bayero, the emir that was removed due to the change in the laws, from parading himself as the emir, orders him to vacate the palace because he's in the Nasarawa Palace, which is
they call it the mini palace.
The mini palace, Nasarawa Palace. So, Omoya teacher says, in Nigeria, a governor has the power to dethrone or install Obas Igwe, I guess, Obi, Emir, etc. To make matters worse, an ordinary local government chairman under the constitution is more powerful than all these monarchs. These are the main reasons these monarchs have refused to tell the truth about power. Because if they do, they might be dethroned or subjected to ridicule by the politicians.
This next user, Ozongo Dogo, Jeffrey, is taking a look at the legal aspect, which is, of course, at the heart of this. And he says this is quite messy. That's how this user captures this. Says, now, he believes this is bad for the former emir because the enabling law that made him emir was repealed and a new law enacted. Currently standing on nothing. Does the House have the power as to what they did? This user says, yes. All caps, by the way.
Oh, boy. Okay. This is from Lulu. Says, the courts of coordinate jurisdiction cannot overrule each other. If you're unhappy with anything being done, you appeal to the next level. You cannot have a court of coordinate jurisdiction giving directions over its equal. The order of the Federal High Court stands. So the argument is, because it's a state affair, it was not supposed to go to the Federal High Court. It's supposed to be a state high court and all of that. But the government had actually said, I think the emir, the new emir, Emir Sanusi, the second had also said at some point they've not seen the court order. Say, it's here and there. This is not the first time we're seeing this. I have seen a case where Court of Coordinate Jurisdiction, one upstairs in Abuja, and then one downstairs, the same case giving orders that are conflicting in Abuja.
Same location.
One upstairs, the other one downstairs. They were giving orders.
and these are the issues that will definitely be raising today as we take a look at the
I don't
big
know what's going on.
one.
We have to fix this.
Absolutely. The next user, Don Panacio, that's the name on X, says that any court order at this point is meaningless and unnecessary. Well, I hope you're not trying to water down the judiciary. But let's take a look at what this user goes on to say. Because there's already an existing court order, so that puts his statement in proper context, and it's pending determination. So Kano State government wants Emir Bayero to obey a court order that they themselves cannot obey, but this also goes back to the repealing of a law, which was made by a... Come on.
So the argument lawyers have made, I've listened to them say, no matter how ludicrous
the law is,
an order is, set it aside.
Right.
That is the argument. All right, Dan Batar says this new court order is not only invalid, but also direct conflict with the initial federal high court, I guess, ordered or halted Aminu's dethronement. This legal mess raises even more concerns about the governor's respect for the judicial system. That's a good place to talk about these things more and more.
Absolutely.
And we'll continue to, the lawyers will be here to explain all of this to us.
Indeed. But our attention to another matter that concerns the rule of law. It's at the heart of it, really. And it's about Banex Plaza in the nation's capital. Quite popular. If you've gone to Abuja and you had to do something with your device or mobile phone, you definitely know Banex Plaza. And for some days now, over a week, I believe, it's been closed. But we understand now that the army has announced immediate reopening of Banex Plaza. And the first response we're taking is from Jave Obi. Says, now, while the reopening may offer a semblance of normalcy, the bitter aftertaste of such a brazen display of force lingers, casting a pall over the once vibrant hub and leaving an indelible stain on the fabric of trust between the protectors and the protected.
All right, this is Forward Niger. What law gives the army the right to close a marketplace? Should an investigation be handed over to the police and the culprits charged to court and jailed ones found guilty? Instead, you've made thousands of people not have income due to the action of a few. How will the army compensate them? Imagine a trader counting on sales made in a week so as to pay bank loans. So this argument has always been, what are we operating? Are we operating a democracy, or we're operating a shared power between military and civilians called diarchy? Well, let's be clear, because certain things we've seen the army do, servicemen, great servicemen, we must honor them for their services, but we're not supposed to be seeing them as regular as we see them in the true sense of the word. But this is why the questions are being called. Actions like this are supposed to be handled by the police and all of that. So it's neither here nor there.
And I know that there's more. The store involved has been
closed. Yes,
exactly.
It's told them to close down.
So while Banex is being reopened, the store is closed, and they say that the people involved or that own the store should be arrested, which should have been the case in the first place. But take a look at this next one from Bankai_X. Says, also, I urge the Nigerian army to also sensitize their personnel on how to resolve issues with civilians. The uniform is not an authority to brutalize anyone at any slight provocation or misunderstanding. Nigeria is our home. The least we can get is feeling protected and not scared. I mean, you go to other climes and when military people approach,
you want to snap with them,
or you even vacate your seat and offer to them. And it's not because of the force. It's not because of the power.
You're just grateful for their service.
Grateful for the service. So
I remember when I was in school, a guy would say, to avoid do you know me, in Nigeria, there's a lot of do you know me's around going on. Civil altercation with, let's not go there. Rescued by MNK, I expected the military to apologize for their overzealousness in closing the entire plaza for the small fracas. New question is, will you close a military barrack if there was a fracas there? Kaide, you have the next one.
Yes, and the comments are quite a lot, and it just shows how this is a very important conversation. It touches at the heart of our very existence as Nigerians, really. But let's move on to this next one, and it's about the Nigeria Air Project, essentially. Nigeria Air Project, remember it? Remember that, right? Well, we understand that it's still suspended.
Air Nigeria.
Right. It's still suspended indefinitely. And this first one is from iShow_Lek. It says that after suspending it, what happens to the billions of naira that was used for it? The ceremonial expenses, and remember the flight that was brought in and it was painted Air Nigeria, and a lot of people thought, oh yes, it's going to happen. In fact, there are buildings that have the insignia Air Nigeria at the airport. So what's going to happen to all of that? That's the question this user is asking.
Okay, as you know, the former Minister of Aviation is under trial, but I don't think it has anything to do with Air Nigeria yet. It has to do with other issues that are contract issues. Afribo says, Nigeria, allegedly, we must say, all the accusations are alleged. Afribo said Nigeria has now made 6 attempts to establish a national airline. Nigeria Airways, he quoted the date. Virgin Nigeria quoted the date. Nigerian Eagle Airlines quoted the date. Air Nigeria, Nigerian Air. Oh boy. Okay. I like the keeping of record, by the way.
Absolutely. Narrowscope is next, and says this cannot even prelude the urgent demand of economic reform at this time anyway. So in our order of priority, this user doesn't think it ranks top anyway. Says that it's pivotal to focus on solving hardship in the country before engaging in any In the words of Isuza, subordinate projects. That's how he or she puts it.
All right, we can now move on to the other subject where the Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Kerry, said that the federal government has injected about 309 billion naira in the last 1 year. You know, the ministers have been giving more like an account of their stewardship in the last 1 year, ministry by ministry, because the federal government says this year's inauguration anniversary, which is 2 days from tomorrow, by the way, is going to be low-key. So as part of a build-up to that day, will just be them, you know, talking about what they've done. So this is where that revelation came from. Ikade says, how do we check all these bogus claims by these ministers? What checks and balances method did President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the federal government, put in place to verify the claims? Nigerians are keen to, are being taken for a wild ride. So sad, according to you.
And just one more, this particular one says, how about insecurity in Nigeria that has made it impossible for the farmers to go to their farms all over the country? Well, in parts of a country, to put that in proper context, if you like, put in 900 billion naira without giving the farmers security or securing the farmlands, you have done nothing. But it's important to state that those areas where farmers cannot go to their farms are vital to food security in the country, and there are lots and lots of them. You can talk about Plateau, Benue, Kaduna, and the list goes on and on. These areas are vital to our food security as a nation.
Absolutely. So we understand the Senate has begun the public hearing on a change of the national anthem. Well, a lot of people, let's say a lot of people, some people see this as just a distraction, unnecessary conversation. All others say it's an important conversation. We don't know where you stand, so let's find out what you're saying on X. Maduka says, changing the national anthem may be a symbolic gesture, but it doesn't address the underlying issues and challenges in the nation. The nation faces. True progress and solutions come from tackling the root causes of problems such as economic inequality, political instability, and social injustice.
Okay, I'll just take this one from Comrade_Lucky1. So, change of national anthem has become top priority out of all the issues and challenges facing the country. The teacher says, misplaced priority.
Steve Loving says the present national anthem is okay. The Senate should use the time to look into Nigerian challenges. Changing the national anthem is not our problem presently. So people have argued that we have a sentimental attachment to the Arise or Come that we use because it was written by a Nigerian. Nigeria We Hailed You was not written by a Nigerian. What is wrong with it? Some are saying the one we use is too military in tone. Others are saying they don't. Oh boy.
It's a big debate. Let us know what you think about that.
That's why there's a public hearing. So if you don't want it, if you think it's not a necessary conversation, go there and knock it off. And we hope you have the numbers to knock it off. All right?
There you have it. Those are the major talking points right now. But we'll start off with one that has been a major thread. Rule of law in the country. But we're focusing on this administration's 1 year performance so far when it comes to the judiciary and the attendant rule of law. So that's our starter this morning. Join us as we dive deeper with our panel in a moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Morning Brief, and we're diving deep already into the first leg of our conversation, which is the rule of law, an assessment of the judiciary under the last administration in the last 1 year. A difficult conversation to have, I must tell you, particularly because it's a sector that is constantly under scrutiny and whose actions are also dependent and consequent upon other arms of government. But it's also important to have it all the same, you know, because it's the jury is out there on whether or not the judiciary is indeed the last hope of the common person. So has the administration ensured that indeed the judiciary caters to the justice needs of all Nigerians on that social ladder and in a manner that is not only independent, but also seen to be free and fair? Joining us to have this conversation, we have two gentlemen: Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Hamid Raji, who joins us from our Abuja studio. Good morning and welcome, sir. And we'll also have joining us here in our Lagos studio, Mr. Jiti Ogunye, legal practitioner. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to the program. So I'm going to start from what the administration promised. That's what we've been doing characteristically. And I understand, gentlemen, that this is a difficult conversation to have yet again, particularly because you are distinguished men of the bar who also have to stand before your lordship in court. And so we appreciate the Herculean task that you're helping us with, gentlemen. So let's look straight at the promises. Judicial independence and integrity. And what is promised under this is we will institute far-reaching reforms, assuring the financial independence, impartiality, effectiveness, and most of all, the integrity of the judicial arm of government. Now, there are different layers to arriving at this destination. You can take it one by one. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Ogunye. We can take it one by one. Either it's appointment of justices to the Supreme Court, to the Court of Appeal, also looking at other aspects. Maybe you want to start with judicial appointments. Have you seen reforms to that extent?
Well, I've seen a departure from...
Okay, pardon me, Mr. Green. We'll have to address your audio. So I'm going to go to Mr. Raji to start off with this. We want to address your audio very quickly. So, Mr. Raji, I'd like you to start off on that one. Have you seen reforms in that regard, if you've been following the conversation?
Reform in terms of what?
The first layer of promise in the administration's manifesto, which would be judicial independence and integrity, instituting reforms, assuring financial independence and impartiality of the judiciary. And I said that there are many layers to that. You could talk about appointments, you could also talk about even remuneration, but whichever one you want to take first.
Well, I thank you very much. The administration is just barely a year old, and I think they're just implementing their first budget. And but that notwithstanding, I think in the areas of appointment, they've allowed the judiciary to call the shot. And what do I mean by this? This is the first time since 1999 or thereabout that the Supreme Court is having a full complement of 21 justices. I stand to be corrected, it has never happened. And this was an exercise strictly between FGSC and NGC. Yes, the President must have to approve, the names must have to be submitted to the Senate, but the procedure, the processes, mainly between FGSC and the NGC. And we cannot be talking of impartiality without looking at the mode of appointment and how much of interference the executive is allowed to wield. I think by far, or by and large, what I've seen and what I've read,
Mr. Raji, can you still hear us? It appears we have audio challenges through to Mr. Raji, but he was beginning to set the tone indeed for this conversation. And I'd like to believe that you were also listening to him, Mr. Ugwe. Perhaps you have some reactions to some of the things that he has already started off by saying.
No, he was just taking off. But I was saying that I've seen some departure because you posed the question whether we've seen reforms in the last 1 year, and I'll say that I've seen some departure from what used to be the case as far as the handling of judicial business, particularly as it relates to the issue of appointment of judicial officers is concerned, and that's quite significant. And this is not an attempt to indict the past administration that was very disturbingly lethargic in handling judicial appointment matters, but that's just putting it the way it is. Whereas in the past, it was very difficult to move the executive to do the necessary appointment after the clearance by the NJC and after the clearance by the Senate, particularly as related to the Supreme Court of Nigeria. This administration has done that with dispatch, and that's very significant. So much so that for the first time since 1999, the Supreme Court of Nigeria is just having the full complement of the court under Section 230, subsection 1B of the Constitution, which provides that the Supreme Court may have up to 21 judicial officers. And so because people may be wondering, what is it with the numbers? Are they not too many? And so on and so forth. The number is significant because if you're talking about constitutional cases, for example, 21 will only provide a panel of 3 of 7 justices. And so if you're talking about ordinary appeals, you have 5 justices, meaning that at most you can only have 4 panels. And so in the immediate past, there was a time when the Supreme Court was struggling with 11, 12. It came down to about 10 sometimes, and people were wondering what was going on, So that's quite significant. As to whether that's indicative of reform, that's not just reform, that's, just following the law, implementing the law. So reforms are deeper. They are more fundamental. They are not just embroidery, administrative embroidery relating to appointment, etc., etc. So we've seen that departure, and given the recent event in Abuja about administration of justice and reforms and all that, we hope that something tangible, something substantial will come from there. So we've seen swiftness in confirming appointment. We've seen a full complement of the court, Supreme Court of Nigeria, since 1999, and that's quite significant, given the volume of cases that their lordships have to handle at the Supreme Court, and given how full the docket of the Supreme Court is currently. So much so that cases, sometimes ordinary appeals, not criminal appeals now, or political cases or constitutional matters, may last there for 4 years. So it is very significant that we had that, and hopefully we'll have other reforms. I may go ahead to speak about other things, but I'd rather, subject to what you may think, that since the silk in Abuja was disappointed by technology, you will resume, and then so that as it was just taking off, it could get to cruise scene level.
All right, Leonard Silk, we would like you to take off from where Mr. Ogunye has left off. Mr. Ogunye talked about how, appointments have been done swiftly, but then again, there are in his own words, administrative embroidery, but that does not, affect the real matters of judicial reforms. Perhaps you have, reactions to that. And maybe you want to talk about remuneration as well.
Well, let me start with remuneration. We're all aware that since 2007, the salary structure has remained the same. 2007. And it's so unfortunate that a director in a parastatal earns more than the entire Supreme Court justice salaries in a month. From CJN down, there are some directors in some parastatals who earn more than what the Supreme Court justices all combined together earn in a month. Now, this regime has put in place a very holistic review, which is very commendable. We have to commend both the Mr. President and the Attorney General for looking into this, and we understand work is almost completed, and the salaries and remuneration generally will be something that will be in tandem with the realities of our time. Otherwise, you talk of judicial independence and the pay is not good. Of what use is independence without economic independence, so to speak? So for this regime, we have to commend them for this. And I understand it's up to about a 300% increase, which is highly, to me, very commendable, because the take-home pay of an average judge is nothing to write home about, and it speaks volumes. But this regime has come to reverse that, as far as my knowledge of the ongoing is concerned. So that is my take on remuneration. And the appointment, which my friend has mentioned, just like he rightly pointed out, this is the first time we're having a full complement of 21 justices of the court. This is going to have a great impact on their work, and this will begin to see us from the next academic session, or judicial session, whereby the court can have at least 3 panels sitting at a time. This is going to decongest the court, because we have a lot of cases before them, and because they were few, they are hampered. There was not much they could do. And now with 21 justices, 3 panels, making either 5 justices or 7, as the case may be, can comfortably sit. So we're going to see the effect of this in months or years to come, whereby the docket of the court will become lighter and what to do. So, and recently, there was a justice reform seminar organized by the Attorney General, and a whole lot of holistic review took place there, which, if properly implemented, will further assist. So, and I think judicial independence and all those areas you have mentioned.
All right, let us see. If we can bring the conversation back to the studio, Mr. Gunye, let's come back to you on some issue, because we're going to be pandering around judicial administration and administration of justice, the places we can have those conversations. And one of the pillars that this government has promised is going to be one of their 4 or 5 pillars in the judiciary is access to justice. But I want us to speak to some issues. It may not be on case basis, which has to do with discipline in the judicial system or in the judiciary. We've seen all kinds of ludicrous things happen, respectfully so, where we have had ex parte orders, interim injunctions from courts of concurrent jurisdiction. In fact, there was a case, I remember our correspondent was telling me of where we had, I think it had to do with one of the states in the South, where the same case, upstairs, downstairs, giving different orders, but they were a court of concurrent jurisdiction. How much of discipline, you applauded the fact that there's swiftness in the embroidery process, as in your words, to make sure that these courts are filled with the right judges and all of that, the numbers are good. But in terms of discipline, to stop some of the things we see that gives the judiciary flax, which are some of these orders and interim injunction, how much of discipline are you seeing in that area?
Well, the judiciary is structured in such a way that the disciplinary body is part and parcel of the judiciary itself. Perhaps because it is felt that it will undermine the independence of the judiciary if an external body were to be the body to sanction. So the judiciary, a way therefore, is a self-regulating institution. And so in Nigeria we had the NJC. There have been criticism, not only now, but in the past, about how the NJC, and in particular the chairman of the NJC, are positioned in such a way as to be the body that does almost everything in the judiciary. From appointment, yes, you have the Federal Judicial Service Commission. In the state, you have the State Judicial Service Commission. But no appointment is made unless the imprimatur of the NJC is put there. And so from appointment to discipline to administration to sitting as regular justices of the Supreme Court, it is felt that the NJC is too big and that it has to be restructured. Many suggestions have been made. But relating to discipline in particular, we all know that there is a code of judicial conduct which regulates the conduct of judicial officers, apart from other laws that are in the polity. And so judicial officers are expected not to do certain things, and there are also, from time to time, directives and directions that are issued by the NJC. Now, I have a fundamental problem with the alteration or modification of the law regarding discipline of judges recently via judicial pronouncement, via case law. And this not related strictly to discipline, but are interwoven and interconnected. Before now, it was possible to get a judge that a law enforcement agency believed had committed a crime to be arraigned. So no judge had judicial immunity against prosecution. But the gradual case came up and it takes away to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court held in that case unanimously that it's only when a judicial officer is removed from the bench, that's the summation, that judicial officer could be proceeded against. So if no petition is raised against a judge, because wrongs can be corrected without being detected, wrongs can be committed without being reported. Okay, so if no report is made, but it's obvious to an anti-corruption agency that a judicial officer is corrupt, because when you're talking about bribery, which is an aspect of indiscipline, for example, it takes two to tango.
Right.
If the giver will not squeal, the taker may not tell. And so between the two of them, the other people are put in darkness, including perhaps the victim of that corrupt practice, who may not have any tangible evidence to prove anything. So if it occurs to an anti-corruption agency by some intelligence gathering and all that, they can't do anything. And so what do? They would then be expected to go and petition the NJC. A body that receives petition is not going to petition the NJC. So I have a problem with that. But regarding the issue of discipline, the NJC has been doing its best to discipline judicial officers. A number, we know, disciplined. But it's a tough situation, I must confess. In many of the cases that require disciplinary sanction, these are political cases. We don't have this very much in ordinary cases, save some infractions. But in political cases, you are talking about one of the South states, River State. We have a burden one now, not burden, a burden, and imagine one. In Kano State, where you just see that over the same subject matter, two courts of coordinate concurrent jurisdiction are just dishing out orders. And then the appellate courts will now be the clearing house. That is not acceptable. And so my expectation is that going forward, the NJC will have to do more to sanction. You recall that the last time this came to the fore, very disturbingly, the NJC came out strong, even against lawyers.
And I remember that
who are
time.
Forum shopping and procuring, clashing and conflicting expert orders. So the NJC can be said in that regard to have intervened, but I've said that it's a tough call because beyond rules and regulations, beyond the code of conduct, there is the human element.
Okay, Mr. Ogui,
these judicial officers, perhaps, who are to be sanctioned before they came to that bench, are also recommended by the higher judicial officers who are supposed to try them, and so on and so forth.
Let me
the human
bring
element is there.
So before Kayode comes in, I don't know what the procedure in court is. My layman's assumption is that if you come, for instance, the popular cases where they do sometimes forum shopping and all of this, if you come before me as a judge and you are seeking an ex parte, I will feel that the judge should ask whether there's already a subsisting ex parte. Isn't that the procedure, so that I will know whether or not?
The judges can randomly ask, but they are not compelled to ask because they may assume that there are no such whatever. But in the procedure, in the Federal High Court, for example, in the procedure, you filing an action, there will be an affidavit that you say that this matter is not being litigated anywhere else. There are no cases like that and all that. So all these steps are being taken because there are steps, innovative steps, to contain this problem and menace every day.
Okay, let me bring in the senior advocate, because this is at the heart of this conversation, really. This taste of the pudding, they say, is in the eating. So if Nigerians are trying to rate this government, this administration the past 1 year, they will look at what they can see, the things they hear, and Mr. Ogui has talked about two of them. So the Rivers case, there's been a lot of back and forth. And as a result of that, we've seen how the political situation has sort of worsened over the past few weeks. And a lot of people look at the judiciary and say, well, we come to you, make this pronouncement, and let us move on from this. But it looks like we're now building a lot of other things on it, and it looks messy right now. The Kano situation, of course, we have that on our hands right now. Even the case with former governor of Kogi State, and there's been a lot of back and forth. And at this point, there's been silence on that case so far. So is it that the judiciary doesn't want to make it look as though, some of our people have made mistakes, and then that might smear the image, the integrity of the judiciary, so they keep this on wraps? Because it's important to make examples of these people so Nigerians know that, okay, the judiciary is strong when it comes to discipline. Senior advocate, that's for you.
Buddy?
I said that's for you.
What is the question, please?
Well, the question is about discipline in the judiciary. I referenced the case of Rivers, where we've seen coordinate courts making orders that are sort of opposing. We've seen what is playing out in Kano State as well. I talked about the case of a former governor of Kogi State, where we've seen courts giving conflicting orders. And the courts are the ones meant to resolve the cases, not cause more issues or confusion. So my question is regarding discipline. Why has it been hard to see that discipline coming through for Nigerians to see as example that the judiciary is disciplined?
Well, I think the NJC has always disciplined judges who abuse the power to grant ex parte order in a frivolous manner. We have had instances where judges have been cautioned or suspended, and in some cases dismissed. But that is not to say that ex parte order is alien to our law. It is provided for in the rules. And as to the issue that you raise, conflicting ex parte orders, under our rules, when you are filing an action, under most rules now, you are supposed to depose to affidavit of non-multiplicity of suits. That is, this case that you have filed, no similar suit has been filed by you. Where a counsel knowingly does that, I think it is not the fault of the judge. That should be, it is the counsel that should be dealt with. You mentioned Kano. I do not think we have any issue of conflicting orders in Kano. As far as I know. Are you with me?
Yes, please, go ahead, Senior Advocate.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any conflicting orders in Kano. There is a fundamental human rights case before the Federal High Court, and we have a chieftaincy matter before the State High Court. Where is the conflict here, as far as I'm concerned? And before you talk of before you deprecate a judge for giving conflicting ex parte orders, he must have notice of the earlier order. It's not just to say that, oh, somebody has given it, like what happened some few years back. Another was taken in Kano. Somebody went to Imo to go and take another order. How will the Imo judge know that another was given in Kano, except it was drawn to his attention? How will he know? So I do not think, while I'm not saying all judges are dangerous, I do not think it is right to accuse them of just indiscriminately issuing out conflicting ex parte orders. Ex parte order is not alien to our law. It is part of our law. It is to cater for emergencies.
So, Senior Advocate, if I can come in here quickly, the premise of this conversation, if I can come in quickly, the premise of this conversation is going to the courts to resolve issues and having those issues resolved clearly for people to see, not going to the courts and then it's resolved for one person, the other person goes to another court, it's resolved in favor of the other person, and both of them come with the court orders or judgments and say, well, it favors me. And you are now left to pick and choose whichever orders, and then these things drag on. So the point is, rather than have the judiciary solve these cases, what we're seeing is that it looks like the judiciary is creating more confusion with those orders that the people are holding on to. I say, this supports my position. The other person says, well, this order supports my position as well. And they keep clashing. And I've given examples across those states or those issues.
I think in the example you have cited, it is the lawyer that should be dealt with, not the judge, and the party to be fined. If you have gone to one court you have what is unfavorable. Instead of you to pursue it there, you now go to another court to go and file another suit without disclosing to the. I had a similar situation where a judge made an order innocently. Unknown to him, the party had gone to another court before, and when it was brought to his attention, he vacated the order. So, but let us not be talking of the effect. Let us go to the root cause. It is the lawyers who engage in that should be disciplined, and the party to be fined. So, why is the fault of the judge who does not know that something like that has happened? So why do you blame him? I think the lawyer should be disciplined. But where a judge, after his attention has been drawn to an existing suit or an existing order, formally, improperly, and refuses to act on it, then the judge may have some explanations to make. I won't say disciplined. He may have some explanations to make.
Well, it would be difficult to fault you on your own your disposition to these issues. But as much as possible, would like to cover as much ground as possible. If we look at what the administration presents that it will achieve, let's go to another level, which is respect for the rule of law. And the promise here is a Tinubu government will operate on the premise that the rule of law is paramount. Let's just leave it at those two lines. I'll come to you now, Mr. Gwe. If you look at the handling of the former chair of the EFCC's case, Abdulrasheed Bauer, who was released after 100 days in custody, you can look at the handling of the case of former CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, just to mention a few. What are your thoughts? How do you weigh in on this administration's disposition towards respect for the rule of law based on its promise?
Using those two, what has happened to those two persons as a case study, one can say that the rule of law is alive in Nigeria. One of the essential pillars of the rule of law is equality of all before the law. I mean, as a person, I would have been surprised if Godwin Emefiele is not facing courts on multiple charges in this country today, including some that have not even been thought about. People died as a result of what he did in this country. But you know, we are people that, you know, pains are inflicted on us, and because of so many problems that we face as a people, we tend to forget the number of you know, the entry points of the pains. So it was good that the mighty, the powerful, the rich, the politically strong are brought to justice, just like the ordinary people. It may well be that some may argue that, look, if another administration had come in, if another person had won an election, Emefiele could still be a free man. You know, that is an act of vendetta. But Emefiele is not pleading vendetta in court as a defense. And so, for me, it's an indication that the rule of law is kicking and alive. Regarding Bauer, his treatment, he spent 100 days. The individual has not come out to challenge his detention. He's not come out to challenge his detention. There are some people who are taken to custody and they stay in custody and start negotiating. So you are outside, you are wondering why they should remain silent, why they are not fighting for their liberty. And they say, no, it's okay by them. They just want to quietly negotiate and get out of trouble, given what they've done. Now, I will expect that if allegations were made against even that person, allegation based on corrupt practices, being the head of an anti-corruption agency, there is no person more suitable to face the wrath of the law than that individual. so that an example can be made. That matter is as important as the matter involving the CBN governor, if you ask me. Because you are the one who asked that question. Because here was the head of an anti-corruption agency who was accused of engaging in corrupt practices. There were no investigations that were conducted. There were no prosecution. Yet there was a removal. And he went home quietly. You know, people celebrated that he had been released. And that's the end of the matter.
You can add the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs case to it as well. Better Edu.
Better Edu. Yeah, it's better that investigations concluded and prosecution is made. Not only better Edu, the other person.
Sadiq.
As many as you have.
The investigation is still on, Nabi.
We've been told that investigation is still on. We'll assume that investigation will be conducted quickly because I'm not a law enforcement expert. I don't work in the FCC, and therefore I may not be able to time their investigation. But I had assumed that if the person who had taken had come out to say I've taken money, and we are told that recovery has been made. So what legs of the investigation are remaining for prosecution to be delayed? So those are the aspects that may point out to the average Nigerian, that the principle of equality of all before the law that I've talked about as an essential pillar of the rule of law is not being observed across.
Mr. Agunya, I want to take this to Mr. Raji, and it's a simple question. Is the judiciary indeed the hope of the common man? The reason I ask, if you look at the ICPC or the EFCC, the lead anti-graft agencies, and you look at their number of convictions, a lot of Yahoo boys, but the people that people suspect pilfered, squandered our commonwealth, there are people that were really not much, they were not successful in anything so much, they became government officials, they became super rich. We can't trace their sources of wealth, whether they are governors or members of the National Assembly, whether at the federal or the state level. And then when it comes to their cases, we see these things happen that it takes such a long time, and how many convictions have actually been attained by the anti-graft agency when it comes to top public officials. It's just like it's a battle of attrition or judicial attrition. Just keep going, and it wins out and everybody goes home. But there's a closure when it comes to smaller cases and smaller fries. So is the judiciary indeed the hope of the common man? Leonard Silk.
Well, thank you very much. Well, I think judiciary is trying its best. As far as I'm concerned, is the hope of common man, and it's not as you have stated it. In this country, Darie was jailed, former governor of Plateau State. Have you forgotten?
The
sentence was...
My apologies, Leonard Sek. I'm saying we can literally count on our fingers top officials that were jailed.
Let me land. Okay. Let me land.
All right.
You see, the trial is not as easy, especially for somebody who has been in charge of government affairs, to wade through the evidence, to assemble it and present it to the court. It's not easy at all. And this is where we have to commend some of these prosecutors. I don't want to mention names, who have been putting in their best to make sure some of these matters are properly presented for them to secure some justice for the society as a whole. So, and announced, and prior to commissions, they do a lot humongous amount of money.
Well, it seems we're having a little issue with the connection, particularly with the audio, senior advocate. So we'll resolve that. The connection's a bit tricky, especially via virtual framework. But let's come to a studio. You know, we can touch and feel Mr. Ogunye, and he was making a point about, yes, please, but we'll come back to you, Senior Advocate, but I want to quickly bounce this off Mr. Ogunye. He was making a point about prosecuting government officials. It's hard, it's tough compared to, I think, prosecuting the average Nigerian. Well, he's speaking perhaps from experience, but then should that be the case? Shouldn't be, same way you approach the prosecution, the same vigor, the same energy and all of that for the average Nigerian, the same should be for government officials as well. So we don't have to count on our fingers the amount of people prosecuted at least and convicted on the government side.
In civil litigation, you are asked not to sue a man of straw because you may not be able to recover damages if he doesn't have money. Conversely, in criminal prosecution, it's difficult to successfully prosecute a person with deep pockets. That's the reality. And it's not just because people don't want to secure justice or prosecutors. But the reality of our situation is that that politician, is better able to, hire the best lawyers in town who are familiar with the courts, who are experienced, who are known to the judges, and who can get one or little concessions, even in proceedings, okay, to his advantage, even without compromising the tenets of the law. And then he is also in a position to compromise and suborn witnesses, to pay them off, to disappear. He's in a position to do so many things. And prosecutors, particularly the ones that whose names have not been mentioned in the FCC, we are doing a lot of things just to succeed with prosecution of one or two of these persons. So it's tough. Again, there are certain aspects in prosecution that the prosecutor themselves are not in control of. If you look at the use of Kalu's case, and I'm not afraid of making examples. How will you rate the disposition of a prosecutor and his stamina to continue prosecution when after the thing slipped through the entire government of the judiciary at the apex court, the whole thing was squashed, perhaps because the Arbitration of Criminal Justice Act was a new act which was being tested. And what's the technical ground? A justice came from the Court of Appeal to try, as provided by the law, that everybody thought was innovative and good. And then the matter got to the Supreme Court and said, how can a law provide that a justice that had been sworn at the Court of Appeal should come back and, preside and conclude the prosecution so that the matter would not start de novo? Nobody anticipated that. And that was it. So to come back and say you are, who is going? So there are a lot of problems, and so we must say that. However, that doesn't mean that government, prosecuting agencies shouldn't strive more than the ordinary would have done with ordinary citizens to ensure that the mighty and powerful, including those who are government officials, who are found wanting, who are found to have engaged in corrupt practices, are successfully prosecuted. That's how to vindicate the rule of law, particularly regarding the issue of equality of all before the law. It is said that be you so high, the law is higher than you are. And that's how the ordinary people will get the feeling that the law is indeed ruling. And that's important because in society, the ordinary cases of those who have stolen yams, who have stolen cocks and all that, they are not seen, they are not heard by the society. But it is those who are alleged to have stolen mind-boggling money, from the public till, that the people look at and ask themselves, do we have a future in this society? Is democracy working? Is the rule of law working? Is justice, criminal justice administration, is it working? And so on and so forth. So once examples are made of those, I think that this will impact even public officers regarding their conduct when they want to pilfer, public money, and they will be restrained thereby by what has happened to,
and it is indeed because of the scarcity of that example, that rhetorical question, is judiciary indeed the last hope of the common man, seems to be eternal. It seems as if we have inadequate time perpetually to address these issues. But there's something that we always do, gentlemen, for the assessment of each sector under this administration. We give a percentage mark. We could do results and effort. So I'm going to start with you now, Senior Advocate from via Zoom from Abuja. What percentage would you award this administration in terms of effort and result in the judiciary sector so far, based on what we have discussed, and indeed, areas that we didn't cover? Would it be average or below average or above average?
Definitely more than average. I will score them 80%.
80%?
Even though there is room for... Yes, I will score them 80%.
Wow,
even though there is room for improvement.
Okay, that's a part.
I'll score them 80%.
In fact, that's a distinction. All right, Mr. Gwe.
Yes.
Efforts of this administration in the area of judicial reforms and all other gamuts that we've not covered, and then results and effort. What would you score the administration?
Unification of the retirement age of judges, attending to the remuneration of judicial officers by increasing their salary, appointing the full complement of the Supreme Court judges for the first time since 1999. That should go for 70%.
So that's a distinction.
That should go for 70%.
Wow.
There is room for improvement, particularly relating to other areas. And this may, the 70% may become 30% going forward. Because one of the things that we've been talking about in judiciary is the structure. The judiciary has a structure of a pyramid. Tiny summit, 21 justices, then in the Court of Appeal, over 120, perhaps 100 justices, and then in the High Court, many judges. Feeding the Supreme Court from the appellate stream and then the original jurisdiction stream. 21 persons cannot handle these jobs alone. So you need to restructure the judiciary and have regional, at the very least, regional appellate system, regional Supreme Court to take ordinary cases, so that the Supreme Court can be free to take constitutional matters.
Indeed, a subject for the men of the bench to reflect on, and the administration indeed. But we'd like to thank you very much, gentlemen.
My pleasure.
Mr. Ahmed Raji, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who joined us from Abuja via Zoom. Thank you very much. And Mr. Jitubu, a legal practitioner who joined us here in Lagos. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Yeah.
And after this time out, we'll be looking yet again at another matter that also borders on the law, but also on administration, particularly at the grassroots level. It's an important conversation that you don't want to miss. So join us again after this time out.
I call on all governors to put Nigeria first and collectively support the president in the quest to grant full autonomy to local governments. We must definitely resolve the controversy surrounding the status of local governments by providing the framework needed to ensure their optimal operation.
Whether corruption exists in the national level, in the federal level, or in the state level, we identify it as true. So what negates the local governments from also having the same issues?
Many experts have proposed that there is need for scrapping the State Independent Electoral Commission. Their functions and powers should be transferred to the Independent National Electoral Commission, because the State Independent Electoral Commission remains an appendage of the incumbent governor, and it behaves as such.
Yes, let's get to that big conversation. There has been some level of advocacy for local government autonomy And there's been for and against this argument, depending on who you're listening to. But a lot of people feel that the local government authorities have been literally brought to close to nothing by the states. And so that is the conversation we're having. And you saw the statement by the Attorney General of the Federation. As a matter of fact, the federal government has sued state governors over this issue, bordering on a couple of issues, orders asking the Supreme Court to say, look, governors cannot just unilaterally decide to remove local government chairmen. In fact, we want to pay allocation directly to the local government. So all of that is a conversation we want to have on the program. I've been joined by the President General of the Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees, Comrade Olatunji Ambali, joins us via Zoom. Comrade, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you, and happy Children's Day and Democracy Day in Nigeria.
I'm sure all okay, one is in future, one is in arrears. So we're in between, we're caught in between. Children's Day was yesterday, Democracy Day is June 12th, by the way. Tomorrow is Inauguration Day, but it's fine. But it's okay. But let's get to the crux of the matter. I just want to get your first reaction when you heard about the federal government suing the states over local governments, which I suppose would be great news for you. How did you internalize that issue?
Well, thank you very much. To us, it was a welcome development. We are excited, and for the first time, we have seen a president and a regime that show political will and courage to fix Nigeria. Because without fixing the grassroots, there is no way you can fix the nation. So immediately we had that, we salute the courage of the current federal government, and also we were able to come to terms that this government really is aiming at addressing corruption at the top tier of government, is aiming to address the infrastructural gap at the local government level, and is also ready to ensure that the living standard of grassroots people is increased. We appreciate Mr. President, and we are ready to partner with him and his government. In fact, we indicated interest to join the suit, because whatever becomes the outcome of that trial will have either positive or negative impact on local government workers throughout the country.
Comrade Ambali, let me get your thoughts on this. Knowing full well that it's a legal matter constitutionally when you consider what the provision of the law says about the joint accounts. That's on the one hand, and on the other hand, there had been a suit prior to this time that I believe the governors lost, the NFIU. What do you anticipate the reactions of the governors would be to this suit instituted by the federal government against local government autonomy, against them on local government autonomy?
Thank you. We want them to fight it and it because they are the beneficiary of this corrupt approach and corrupt process. So that is expected. Even at the NFIU, when NULGE joined the suit, we were a party to that suit at the lower court and even at the Court of Appeal. They fought tooth and nail to stop it, but at the end of the day, judgment was delivered in favor of the defendant, which was NFIU and NULGE. So we believe they will also fight. But you see, issues of legal interpretation, especially on constitutional matters, is left at on the shoulder of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. And we believe that even saying that it's a legal matter, we were at the conference yesterday when the Attorney General and son, Baba Awomolo, and all of them were there, Professor Sage, most of them were there, and they were looking at this critical issue. We realized that the concern is clear about autonomy of local government, but it has been implemented in breach. For example, Section 7.1 clearly stipulated that there shall be a democratically elected political leadership at local government. As of today, 17 states operate using unknown leadership at local government level. That is, sole administrator. So at times they appoint overseers if it's a church, and some appoint caretakers to pay way for this corrupt political leaders to continue to prefer, divert, misapply, and misappropriate local government funds at the detriment of Nigerian people. So even under Section 162, it's clearly stipulated under subsection 5 that the National Assembly shall prescribe how allocation to local government is administered. But because National Assembly has overlooked that function, at the forum yesterday, that was brought to fore and it was debated. What Section 162 said on JAR is that you can only appropriate the revenue that is collected at the state level. You can appropriate joint federal allocation that has been appropriated at the national level, because there are items and indices that clearly shows how state and local government allocation will be calculated. So we legally yesterday, that was trashed. And again, when you look at the issue of this constitution, fourth schedule of the constitution, clearly stipulated the collectibles by local government, like advertisement rate, that the state government are now illegally using the instrumentality of state house of assembly to legislate against the constitution by seizing and by putting up all these illegal bodies like the signage agency, like park and garages. All these are clearly the functions and collectible by local government. As an revenue collection, refuse collection is a function of local government. Conduct of marriage at the registry is a function of local government. But what we have realized is that apart from forcefully seizing and diverting local government federal allocation, they have also gone to an extent of diverting and seizing IGR collected by local government. The issue become more worrisome. In some states, it is the local government that is paying primary school and secondary school teachers' salary. Against the Supreme Court judgment of 2002 that clearly stipulated that local government shall only participate in funding of primary education. Can you participate within yourself alone? It shows there must be parties to be involved. So all these expenditures were put squarely on the shoulder of local government. That is why local government has been crippled, it has been raped, it has become incompetent to deliver the expectation of the people. And that is why we are having insecurity, we are having poverty in the land, we are having hopelessness, and we are having political exclusion of the grassroots.
So it's quite curious, the situation we find ourselves. So the Constitution has been said to be quite clear on the autonomy of local government. But we saw the previous administration come up with the NFIU guidelines, and we saw the move by governors regarding that. So that essentially fell through. We're seeing this again, and it's sort of like deja vu, because a former president literally did something similar. Nothing came out of it really. It was status quo. In fact, some would say it may have even gotten worse. The hold was getting worse. But this is my confusion this morning, and help me out. So if the federal government is suing the state governors, majority of them are in the same party with the current president. I don't know, it doesn't look right, it doesn't sound right. And do you really see anything coming out of this different from what we have seen in the past, if they cannot actually resolve this within the party and say, well, this is who we are progressives of sorts, let us sort this out, at least be the example for others to follow?
Well, thank you very much. It is not an issue that can be solved politically. And let's give kudos to Mr. President. I believe in rule of law and justice. The best way to iron this out is what the presidency has done, using the Attorney General to file a suit for judicial interpretation of the provision of the Constitution, because it's a kind of disagreement between two tiers of government, the federal and the state. And one is interpreting our power to continue to appropriate and divert local government funds. The other one that is directly in charge of the federation account is saying, no, this money you are holding it in transit. Joint account allocation committee should not be a transactional account. So what we are seeing now, the spirit of the law is to create a basket where pool of funds will be put for redistribution to local government. But instead of doing that, what the state governors are doing is to collect the money to that pool and take it away outrightly. Some will credit local government account by money in the afternoon. The local government are not signatories to that account. They put it in the account created by the state and withdraw the money. So no local government in Nigeria has access to 50% of our monthly allocation.
Which of the states are currently practicing that?
The political leaders in local government
sorry, pardon me. I think it's important to call names or call these states out. Are you aware of any state currently doing that right now, crediting and withdrawing?
I am aware 2 states stand above others. 2 states are the one complying mutandis with the provision of the Constitution. Ekiti.
Just when he was about to mention the state, I think it's important to speak to these issues and let Nigerians, or at least the people at the grassroots, know what is going on. Because one of the vital questions...
local government allocation to local government. All others.
So what is the second state? Ekiti and which... Yeah, you mentioned... You were going to mention 2 states, Ekiti and which other one?
I've mentioned 3. I said River joined, Jigawa is one of them, and Ekiti. All others.
So these are the states you say are complying, right?
Yes, they stand above board.
All right, Comrade Ambali, if you look at the provision of 162 that you cited, this Siamese twin situation that was provided in Section 6, above and beyond those sections is a difficult one. I don't know how the federal government is going to approach this, because this perhaps is a premise for where they are standing. I'm talking about the governors. So if you look at subsection 5 of that 162, it says the amount standing to credit to local government in the federation account shall be allocated to the state for the benefit of their local government councils on such terms and in manner as may be prescribed by the National Assembly. That's in subsection 5. If you go to subsection 7, it says each state shall pay local government council, subsection 8 I should say, the amount standing to credit to local government councils of the state shall be distributed among the local government councils of that state on such terms and in such manner as may be prescribed by the House of Assembly. So are they doing anything illegal based on this provision that I've just read?
You see, what they are doing is illegal. That law does not say they have to spend the money or remove a dime out of that money. That is the area of concern. Instead of distributing it to local government accordingly, they are diverting the money. And I am able to say that whoever wants to controvert this should come on. We were at Ibadan when the Conference of Speakers and NULGE and representative of governors met. Some of them were saying that the local government is not financially capable of meeting their day-to-day obligation. But we came out with facts. We were using 24 states as base of comparative analysis. At the end of the day, even Oyo State that was represented there, we ask a question. In August 2022, you took, on behalf of states, on behalf of local government, about 7 billion. The wage bill of teachers and local government workers are just about 3.2 billion. What happened to the rest?
Okay, Comrade Ambali, knowing again...
We came out with very good data to show what is happening. Unfortunately, there is conspiracy by the Federal Account Allocation Committee too, because in the past, whatever they give to the credit of local government are published on their website and published in national dailies. But unfortunately nowadays, you hardly see it unless you go to Federal Office of Bureau of Statistics to get it.
Ambali. We're totally out of time. I understand. We hope that whatever reforms and constitutional amendment is being sorted by the State National Assembly will factor in some of these things. Comrade Olatunji Ambali is the President General of National Union of Local Government Employees, joined us via Zoom. Thank you for coming on the program.
My pleasure. Thank you. Let's fix local government. Let's fix Nigeria. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. So we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you the softer side of the conversation. Join us again.
at that intersection where creativity meets sustainability, or that progression where trash is transformed to cash. I could go on and on, but the artist is here with us today, so let's just bring him on. His name is Eugene Komboye. He's a mosaic artist. He joins us via Zoom from Abeokuta. And let me just say, good morning, welcome to the show. I love your background. Your background is made of slippers, am I correct? Talk to us about your background. Let's start with that. Not your background as in where you're coming from, but your video background.
Thank you very much. Good morning, sir. The background is my current project. The work is a portrait I'm creating right now, and it's about 16 feet by 8 feet. So, but what you're seeing is just like a portion of it. This is not work itself.
Wow.
In its entirety.
Amazing. And that is just a picture of what you do. And I was looking at data. You say that Nigeria generates 32 million metric tons of waste annually. That's 2.5 million of that is actually plastic waste. And with an annual growth of about 2.4%, our wastes will increase, obviously, in subsequent years. Now, this was as at 2023, so imagine where we're at today. But you are doing something quite innovative. You are turning that trash, in some sense, to creativity, something beautiful to behold. So there's the creativity side, there's the sustainability side, there's the hard work side of it. So talk to us about your inspiration first. How did you come to this beautiful idea?
I started this work. I started creating a portrait out of footwear since 2017 when I was in school. But then when I started, it wasn't like this. I started by cutting them into tiny cubes and all that. But then the more I worked, the more I became more environmentally conscious. So that is why my work have evolved over time, and now I create my work while I kind of just put up the footwear there. So, and when you look at my work, the first thing you see actually is the footwear. So, at the center of my practice, the sustainability side, and the material is more important. That's what it is.
Amazing, and I wish Nigerians could just have the benefit of the full complement of some of the things that you're doing. If the camera could just pull out and see how you create beauty out of waste. I could see a beautiful, the face of a beautiful girl that you have created. I want you to take us through your creative process from how you source for this waste and what goes on in your mind. Yes, that's it, exactly. Beautiful. What do you create in your mind first before you create, before we see this full beauty?
Through my creative process, number one is where we source for the materials. I don't do that alone. I have a team that are charged with such responsibility. After getting our material, the second stage now is the cleaning process. The cleaning process. Then we go to the sorting process where we have to select them according to their colors and their size and how. And their level, the level of damage, done on them through usage. So those ones that are a little bit out of shape, they are the ones that are on my first layers, like what I have in my background now. Those ones are the ones on my first layer if I come over. Now, talking about what comes to my mind most times, like for the work that I intend to create in the next 6 months to a year, I already have them all planned out. I take references, I take pictures of children around me, and day in, day out, I just have to go through these pictures and kind of immersing myself with them, creating a connection between me and my subject, and that is actually how I create. But what I'm doing today is I must give credit to different people. There are people that I pass through them. They train me on different capacities. Talking about people like Mr. Abiodun Olapo, like Mr. Wallace Ejo, and name a whole lot of them. So I actually had the foundational training in arts, and now I'm doing something outside what they taught me, but using the foundational knowledge I got from them.
All right, so let me find out from you, how rewarding financially is it for you, as well as, how much of a market does this have within where you play?
Well, I would say it's encouraging, because this is what I've been doing for the past 6 years. I've not done any other thing. So, for all the people that work with me, I also pay them. So if it's not sustainable, like it's not sustaining me as a person, so I would have left it maybe, because then I need to survive. This is what I do 24/7, always in my studio. Financially, I would say yes, it's very much, it's fair, it's good.
I mean, and that's good to hear, because that's what will sustain. I know you're trying to ensure sustainability for the environment, but you also need some sort of sustainability. And I'm looking at the work behind you. I think I can see an ear, maybe the eye and the nose. Am I correct?
Yes, yes.
Ah, fantastic. So I get some kudos for that. But I want to take you back a bit, because we still have a huge challenge on our hands. You're doing your bit, and we must commend you. We have some other artists doing their bit as well, using other forms of wastes and then turning them into either cash, something creative, and the rest. But we still have a huge challenge of plastic waste on our hands. We've seen state governments banning styrofoam and all of that, but you see the amount of waste we still generate. It's challenging. So what would you profile as a solution? A permanent solution, that is. Would you suggest that we have more people like you? Maybe you could begin to convert other people so we can have an army of people using, plastic waste for good, sort of, recycling them. Or do we just go back and say, let's do something about plastic in the first place? Do we really need plastic? Should we keep producing plastic, since we've seen that it is hurting the environment? What would you prefer? More people like you, or just go to the root and reduce totally the use of plastic?
Well, if I should say, in my opinion, going back to say, oh, you want to cut out plastic, I'm not saying that, I don't think it's possible for you to cut it out. But then what we have to do right now is manage, because even if we say we are not producing plastic for the next 10, 20 years, we'll still have the same problem. The ones that we have already amassed. For example, presently, I'm the only person I know of in Nigeria that is recycling footwear. This like the kind of footwear I use. And these footwear, they are the kind of plastic that they are not meltable. You can't melt them to produce any other thing. You understand? So if we say, okay, let's assume today we say we are not going to make use of such footwear, but the ones that people have used over 10, 20, 30 years, they are still out there. You understand? So what I think right now is to create an enabling environment and also encourage creatives to kind of to venture into this kind of eco art, this kind of art that will help the environment. So it's just to create a living environment. I think that will be a more visible solution, because then even if you do that, it's not like we can't take everything away. It's just more like we just put hands together to manage the problem, but it's not possible to take it away. That's just our reality right now.
Now, it's rewarding, it's heartwarming to know that indeed you're turning trash into cash, that your effort, is bringing back some form of reward. But it looks like a lot of hard work. And besides that, for those who are wondering, are there fit-for-purpose frames that are suitable for homes, not just offices, not just art galleries or museums? Take us through what you create and if they are fit-for-purpose sizes for homes.
Yes, I do create smaller pieces. I do create smaller pieces, but I do create some, but not always. And the thing here is because of the material I have. It's because of the materials I have. Creating smaller pieces actually, yes, is a kind of friendly for people to pick up. But now making a statement is when I create a very large piece, because now the quantity of material I will consume in creating this piece is actually it goes in line with what my practice is all about. My practice is about taking out the trash, and day in, day out, I'm still kind of I have my people are still putting these things together for me. So if I'm creating smaller pieces, it's more like the material are still there and we are still getting the inflow is there. Because right now, the difference between me and other people that are practicing with conventional material is that now I have unlimited supply of material. You know, I won't run out of material. I'm not running out of material anytime soon. So I think that's yes. Yes, and it's easier for me to get my materials. It's cheaper for me to get my material. I don't have to travel anywhere. In Abeokuta here alone. This year alone, I've collected more than 2 tons of this material already that are in my studio presently. So I'm looking for a possible means of kind of reducing them, and that's actually why I started this project. It's 16 by 8 feet. So that's the stage we are now. So, but I create smaller pieces. Maybe I might create 2 small pieces. After that, I'll go back to creating 5 big pieces. That's how I work. Really.
That sounds like a lot of work. So how much people do you have under your employment?
Well, I can't count. But let's say let's say about 20 people. Let's say about give and take 20 people, because out there the people that are collecting the materials they also have different layers. There are people that go out, there are people that collect, there are people that sort, and I don't even know everybody. Yeah. But deep down now, when I come back to my studio, also I have about 7 people. You know, from the washing stage to the sorting stage to maybe the assembling stage to the stage where I have to stitch, because each and every one of those pieces, like this piece that is behind when it's done, we have to sit down and stitch it manually. We stitch every footwear you're seeing round. So it's in my studio alone, we have about 7 people.
Fantastic. And I mean, outside. It's good to hear that that's creating some sort of engagement or employment, as the case may be, for those people. I'm trying to look at what's behind you and see if any of my old slippers are there.
It's possible.
It's possible, right? So maybe I can get small royalty, maybe 0.1% of it, but I'm joking. I want to talk about how far this has taken you and what the potentials you see as a result of this. First, for the sustainability of our world, for creativity, for the creative sector of our country. I know you've been featured on global stages as well. And I'd like you to speak to how we can leverage on that, because you talked about enabling environment. And these are the stories, the efforts that we need to push out there and build something proper on it. So I don't know if we can have a museum of sorts, if we can, what are the possibilities you see, basically?
For example, like your last point about the museum, if for example the people in power decide to kind of create a museum where you say, okay, this museum is all about recycling, like we are going to stock this museum with recycled art, then it will encourage a lot of people to move into recycling, to encourage a lot of people, even the people that are doing recycling right now, they want to kind of create something that will speak volume, So, well, right now there's one person I know of that have done that, but that is a private thing. Mr. Dr. Mobola, let's give credit to him. He's working on something like that. But imagine now the people in power deciding to do something like that. Then the environment, then you encourage a lot of people, a lot of younger artists. Because right now, as a person too, I've trained other people, and there are still people that have the intentions of coming to my space to create. So if you create this kind of environment for them, maybe for example, outside the museum, you create an art fair that has to do solely with recycling alone. So all this, you are kind of encouraging them, you are opening a new portal for them to see possibilities. But there are a lot of people that want to do this, but they don't even know where to start from or where will be their potential market, and all these things. They are it's a bit discouraging for young artists, people, especially the ones that just come out of school. So I think if things like that are put in place to encourage them, to encourage people, even the ones that are doing it right now, we kind of want to push a little bit beyond what they are doing already, and you get new actors also.
There's so much to take from your story to learn, just as there's so much slippers behind you that you can pick from. And I think your story is really encouraging. It's motivating. The fact that you're bringing out beauty from it. Maybe someday I'll commission a slippers art of my face. But we'd like to thank you so much for the good work you're doing. Kamboya Eugene, Mosaic artist, doing incredible work. We appreciate your work and wish you the very best.
Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you.
Whew. So there you go. I don't think it's lack of ideas or opportunities out there. You just need to look closely and you'll find it right there. People see slippers. This young man says art.
Waste, yeah, but he sees art.
Absolutely. Well, that's how much we can take on the show this morning, and we do hope we've been able to infuse you with some sort of motivation to go out there and look for ideas that you can convert into sustainability, cash, and the rest. But from this side, we'll have to say thank you. Have a fantastic day ahead. I'm Kayode.
Yes, indeed, true that. Wealth is all around you. You just have to look closely. Thank you for watching. Join us again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
And don't forget, Sunrise is up next at the top of the hour. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Bye-bye.